So I'm going to keep this really tight. I'm going to share with you 3 different things that you can do to optimize your online presence. Now, here's the thing. If you're just attending like a meeting like this or training like this, it's what you already have is perfectly fine. But if you are organizing an important meeting, when you are training other people, when you are delivering an important like workshop or speech, or an important meeting at work or a pitch, it might be worth investing a little bit more time on how you're organizing your setup. And the setup for me is based on 3 different things. So there's lighting, there's audio, and there's camera position. I'm going to start with the simplest one first. So with camera position, for me personally, I like to communicate standing up. That's why I've set up a space where I have a standing desk and the mount for my laptop. So my laptop camera is almost eye level. One thing I try to avoid is having the camera so low that the angle is looking upwards. So if it's just a regular meeting with colleagues is one thing, but if I have an important meeting coming up, what I used to do before I had the mount is I had a couple of shoe boxes on top of my desk. I would prop the laptop up and nobody would know. And you'd have the right angle with the eye contact, and this is a much better angle to be communicating from. Second one is audio. So again, with audio, it's always very good to test out what works. For example, sometimes I use the computer mic, which can pick up a lot of like ambient sounds and echoes from the room, which you can soundproof with fabrics, but there are other ways to go about it. For example, today, sometimes I use my AirPods, which has really good mics. Even Bluetooth headsets have really good mics. However, depending on who you're communicating with, having like white earrings could be distracting. That's some of the feedback I used to get. And for example, today I'm communicating with you with a lapel mic. So a lapel mic on this black shirt, you can't really see it, and it's super clear. And something that I got some feedback on as well. So you don't need to invest in a lapel mic, but test out how different audio settings work for your audience. And you can always do that by setting up a separate Zoom session, recording it, and watching the playback and checking out the different sounds. And finally, lighting. Lighting is one of, I think, the more important ones as well. So with lighting, one thing I try to avoid is very hard lights. So for example, right now I have my ceiling lights, they're switched off. If I switch them on, you can see harder lights underneath my eyes and underneath my face. So how do I light it? So how do I light my setup? Right now I have 2 soft lights on both sides. And when I say soft lights, it's a light that is diffused. So when you have a diffused light, it reduces all those harsh shadows underneath your face. So the first thing is using soft lights. Now I've actually invested in a lighting setup, but before I had that, I DIY'd it, right, Antoine? So it's just a regular light. This is shoebox paper. One can use also baking paper instead, white baking paper, to diffuse the light. And this used to work perfectly well. Same result you used to achieve with filming lights, right? So there's diffuse light and the light direction. So I can see some of you have lots of natural light, which is also perfect diffused light. But when the light is coming from behind you, it's going to make your face look dark. So if you have an important meeting coming up and your desk is set up that you have lighting behind you, you might want to consider for that specific meeting, turning things around so that the natural light is coming from in front of you. So with lighting, we spoke about direction, softness, and also want to speak about color. Because when it comes to lighting on camera, although it's not very comfortable to have that kind of lighting in the room, to have white light, we normally have yellow light. But when our face reflects yellow light, it might make us look more orange. So if you are experimenting with lighting setup, experiment with using whiter lights instead of yellow lights. So those are my 3 kind of tips or techniques that you can use to optimize your online presence. Camera angle, soft lights facing your face, and experiment with audio.